Hi folks, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit today about one of the things we can do to make our art and our craft more our own, really. I know it's something that a lot of people talk about, is how do you find your own style, how do you do things which make your work stand out from everybody else's. And one of the things I like to do is just a small thing, but it's something which anyone can do, and that's make your own block prints or stamps. And it really does give you a lot of satisfaction. Well, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to do, and it means that the things you make are your own. They're not going to be something that everyone else has. Much as I love commercial stamps, and there are some gorgeous ones out there, I know that an awful lot of other people have got exactly the same one. So although I use them, and although when I do use them I know that the stuff I make isn't going to look exactly like everybody else's, it's even nicer to be able to make your own, so that you've got something that truly is unique to you, and it's an expression of what you want to make and what you want to create in lovely stampy form. So what I was just going to show you was some of the things I use and some of the results. The stuff I use mainly, and this is just a leftover piece I've been playing with, is this Speedball Easy Carve block, and it is exactly what it says. It's very easy to carve. You just need a lino cutter, which is one of these, and you can get these really cheaply from places that sell printmaking supplies, or art shops. Art and craft shops usually stock them as well. They're just a basic little plastic handle which unscrews. You take the cutter head out, and you'll get a whole bunch of other ones with it. You can buy extras. They're generally in two different types. This one, as you may be able to see, if I can possibly hold it up properly, is a V shape. It's a very fine V shape, which is jolly useful for doing detail work. You can get these in different widths. There's also that U shape there. The U shape gouges are very handy for cutting out the extra bits of rubber that you get round what you're actually wanting to make your stamp of. So you can use those for the background, cutting out the background, and the V gouges, as I say, this is how I use them. Other people who know better will probably use them differently, but this is what I do with them. V gouges are very useful for fine lines, just cutting around edges, cutting details. If you've got details you're trying to cut into your stamp, jolly useful. And they all just go in there, and then you just tighten it up and cut away. The obligatory safety warnings: please don't test the ends with your fingers, because they can be incredibly sharp, a lot sharper than you would imagine. So do be careful of that. When you are using your lino cutter, always cut away from you. Be careful how you insert them. They can be a little bit tricky. And when you're cutting, always cut away from you, never towards you, because if it slips you can hurt yourself. So some things to consider when you're starting out making a stamp. If you very first do one, I would suggest pick something simple, pick a nice simple design, and think about what's going to be your positive and what's going to be your negative areas. Obviously when you make a stamp, this is one I made the other day, whatever you take away from that surface won't print. That will be the bit that has no ink or paint on it, and it won't show up on your finished piece. So consider that, and if necessary, colour it in or mark it in before you start cutting to make sure you don't cut out bits that you actually want to print. I did this one, as I say, the other day, and it's quite rough and ready in that it's not perfect by any means, but I quite like that. I like that sort of slightly faulty, if you like, or flawed look to things. It just gives it a bit more personality, I think, than being totally machine-made looking. If you make something by hand, you're never ever going to achieve quite the same look as you do from something that's made on a, mass-produced on a machine. And really, I can't see the point if you're going to do that. You might as well just buy something if you want something that's absolutely perfect. But anyway, that's just my idea. Here's some test prints I did of this as I was cutting it. If you look at this one, I don't know if you can see it exactly, but you should be able to just make out. There are some little faint lines there in between the actual cross, and that's whilst I was cutting it out. I hadn't cut, in some places I hadn't cut it deep enough, so when I inked it up, the ink was sticking onto these little cut-out bits, and that's where that comes from. That's why it's a good idea to do test prints as you're cutting, because then you can see where you still need to take some more off. And that's exactly what I did with this, and I think it's pretty much all right now. That's the second print I did off it, and there's no extra little lines or anything on it there. So that's that was just a very simple one I did. As I say, I just fancied a bit of a cross, so I did that. You can make all manner of designs with this stuff. You won't get anything as detailed as you would on, say, one of those polymer stamps that are, I don't know how they make them. Do they etch them with lasers or some such thing? I don't know. They're very intricate, obviously, especially the photo style ones. You can't do anything like that with this stuff, obviously, but you can get yourself some really interesting individual handmade stamps that you can use either for backgrounds or for highlighting bits of your work. And I'll just go through these and you can see some of the ones I've made. There's quite a lot of background ones in my collection because that's something I like doing. I like things I can just use as a background stamp, either for a card or a tag, or just to sort of add a bit of interest to something when I'm making a collage or a jelly print. They're really good for jelly printing handmade stamps because they go into the paint nicely and you can leave a nice impression with them. Because they're not over detailed and the detail isn't too fine, so they will make a nice bold sort of graphic impression on your print. You can also, the other thing you can do is roll ink, brayer ink onto a piece of perspex or a bit of glass or a freezer paper covered board, which is what I mostly use, and then you can just stamp from the paint onto your plate or onto your collage and make another layer that way. I've done lots of different ones over time. As I say, mostly quite abstract. And you can make them any size you want. You can make little, you can make bigger. You can make swirls, straight lines, any combination thereof. And it really is a lot of fun to do. You can also make things like that. I've made quite a detailed leaf. You might be able to see that's quite detailed. If you cut into it less deeply, the rubber, you can actually make quite a lot of detailed little cuts onto it. You won't do it as deep as you do the background cuts, but that's how to get a bit more into it. That's one I did, which is inspired by an Indian sort of paisley stroke mandala kind of design. That one's broken. It's somehow got its end sliced off. So a little bit of sort of stylised tree branch there that I did. So you can make reasonably detailed ones quite small if you've got a nice fine cutter. But you do need to, as well as the broad ones, you do need to make sure you can get something quite fine on it. So you can then add little details here and there. I've also got a sort of stylised house there that I did, and a sort of vaguely Egyptian inspired eye there. I don't know how clearly you can see all of those on this background. I'm hoping you can see them pretty well. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and I'm by no means done anything more than sort of scratch the surface of this idea, really. Every so often I pick up the sheet of rubber and have another go at it and make something else, usually when I see patterns somewhere. So you can get the speedball usually from the same sort of place you would get other printmaking supplies or craft supplies. I get mine online because there isn't anywhere near me that sells it, but it's easy enough to pick up usually. And you could also try doing this with actual lino, the stuff that they sell for making lino cut printing blocks with, and just cut it up into smaller pieces and have a go at that as well, because that works too. I do prefer this stuff though, because it's a little bit, got a bit more give in it when you're actually printing with it, so it's somewhat easier than lino is to get a good impression without having to do lots of rubbing and all that sort of thing with it. I think that's about it really. As I say, all you really need is one of those. Get your design onto your bit of speedball, and then just have a go. Just have a go, and it doesn't matter. If you make a mess of it the first time or two, it doesn't matter really. You'll be surprised how ropey things look sometimes when you start off with them, and yet when you come to print with them, they look absolutely great. So I hope I've encouraged you to think about having a go. As I say, this is a good way of getting something quite individual into your work, and you do need the bare minimum of tools to do it. As I say, these lino cutters are really inexpensive. The only other thing you might want is a good knife, just to cut out your finished stamp. You need to either cut round the edges or cut it out into a square or whatever when you've finished. And a good craft knife, either a scalpel or something like a Stanley, is invaluable for that. And if you don't cut too deeply into the stamps, you can even make them double-sided. That one's not got a lot of depth to that side, so I was able to get a second one on the other side. Anyway, I hope that's of interest to you, and let me know what your thoughts are on stamp making in general, if you've got any, and I hope you have a try and enjoy yourself doing it, because it's well worth a go. Okay, I'll see you soon anyway. Bye.